6. It is now 6:02. Thank you, Josh, for doing that. Appreciate it. Welcome to everybody. I'm anticipating that we'll stay within the 2 hours tonight, but if we don't, are we okay spilling over if we have to for maybe another half hour if that's
I can stay longer tonight.
okay.
I know, Ed, you had referenced like do a meeting every week. I will tell you right now, next week is out for me. Not to go down that road right now, but
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, everybody's got, their lives to live. So people can't make it, that's fine, as long as we can get a quorum. If we can't get a quorum, then obviously we can't meet. But if we can get through, what we need to get through tonight, and if we have to extend it a little bit, then that's, it's okay from my perspective, as long as you guys can do it as well. All right, so as I said, Scott and Janet will be joining a few minutes late. I have not heard from Steve at all. I know he's been traveling a lot. He was up in Maine, he was out on the vineyard, he's been down in Delaware. So he's got a stressful life right now going on with everything that he's doing. So I didn't want to put any pressure on him at all. If I figured if he has the time to join, he will. Otherwise, he's got to do what he's got to do. Working for the federal government, right? It's just, you got to do what you got to do. So first item is to approve the minutes from last meeting last week. Thanks, Josh, for pulling these together in such short notice. I appreciate that greatly. Hopefully you've had a chance to review them. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I, Darren Boston, make a motion to approve the minutes from last week.
I, Thomas Golden, will second the motion.
Okay, thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Any discussion on the minutes? Any corrections or anything anybody noticed?
Not me.
Oh, okay, great. All right, then Josh, we'll need a roll call to approve the minutes.
Ed,
Yes.
Leone,
Yes,
Darren,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you all. Next item is public comment. I don't see anyone here. Josh, anybody in the waiting room at this point or not?
Nope, nobody in the waiting room.
Okay, all right. I guess we'll move beyond that. So we'll come into old business. And, obviously what we had planned to do tonight was to start our second round of voting. Janet took the time, I don't know how much time she spent, but she took the time to go through the entire charter and sent that email with some questions and some suggested changes, which I forwarded to you folks, I think on Monday. I guess she spent some time over the weekend doing it. So what I'd like to do is kind of walk through these. Many of them, what I did was I went through the charter and actually made the updates in the charter that she suggested, so we can easily look at it and we can vote whether we want to accept them or not accept them, all right? That way we can kind of do this quickly.
Ed, I have a question. Since a lot of them were grammatical, would a motion to approve all the grammatical changes that Janet proposed be acceptable to pass that faster? Like remove a space here, add a whatever there.
Well, I guess I just want to make sure everybody agrees with it. I mean,
Fair
we could do that, but if we don't look at it, maybe you don't agree with what she's, what she's suggesting. I think we can move pretty quickly, Tom.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So let me share my screen. Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing that Janet asked is, should there be a table of contents? And I thought that was a great suggestion. I'm just kind of shocked that we hadn't discussed it sooner. So I went in and created a table of contents here. Basically, now I didn't go into every section because I guess that's one of my questions is, do we, below the sections, I didn't do anything. I don't know how detailed we want to get it, but to me, this was fine. At least identifying which pages the sections started on. I
think that's fine. I would, my only caution on the table of contents is when this is gonna get reviewed 4 more times. It might change a little, so it just adds additional revisions that those people need to make.
That's true. That's true. And I know I'm going to have to make some changes as well before we finalize it, but I think we have it in here now and it just needs to be updated to stay current. So if everybody is in agreement with this, then I think we can just vote on keeping the table of contents in. So if somebody wants to make a motion to approve the table of contents.
I, Thomas Golden, motion to approve adding a table of contents to the charter.
I, Cleone Meanville, second.
Okay, any further discussion? Any changes that you'd make to what I have here? I mean, cosmetically, I mean, I don't know that necessarily everything needs to be capitalized in here. I could
I
change.
don't think that matters much. Does it matter that it's like article and then Roman numerals versus article 8-1 or section 8-1?
Well, that's the way it's actually in the charter, so.
Yeah, I know, but now now when you see it big picture, it kind of looks silly, but I mean, I don't care. I think content wise, it's fine.
Yeah.
Hi, Janet's here.
Hi,
Welcome
Janet.
to the party.
I don't think it looks bad having it sectioned. You know, it stands out easier than
Okay.
if you kept everything, you know. But
Okay. All right, we'll leave it as is unless somebody makes motions for an amendment. We have a motion on the floor to approve the table of contents. Any further discussion or questions on it? Okay.
Good call, Janet.
Yes, really good call.
thank you. I just found it was easier. I'm flipping and like, oh, this would be easier.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me say, I'm surprised we didn't catch this earlier, you know?
Oh, I just got on, so.
Okay, so Josh, can we take a roll call on that one?
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. So Janet, you probably missed my introduction here. What I'm doing is I made all of the changes in the charter to reflect your comments.
okay,
So we can just go through anything in yellow is what you questioned in your email. Some of the things that I put in here are just answers to your questions and I'll remove them after we discuss it. Some of them are actual changes that we can also discuss, okay?
okay.
I do appreciate the time and effort that you put into doing this because it was very helpful. So thank you for that. So you had questioned the definition for city. You said it was a little bit confusing to you. The way it reads right now is the body politic and corporate called the city of Bridgewater in this charter. So this is sort of a legal definition of city. And the way it's described is a body politic is a civil division of the state for purposes of governmental administration. And a body corporate is a legal entity. So for example, in private law, a corporation is a legal person. So in this case, the body politic is the governmental administration and corporate is the legal entity for Bridgewater. So together, these two make up that definition of city.
Okay.
I almost feel like you need to define body politic and have it be a definition.
I had to look up politics. It looked like a weird word to me. I don't know. So I had to actually look it up, but just the one sentence confused me.
I would rather replace it with a definition there than add another word in definition. Because then there's too much reference, right? So instead of having a body politic as its own thing, just replace that with whatever its definition is. Does that make sense?
So you'd say, for example, a civil division of the state for purposes of governmental administration.
Well, yeah, I would get the exact definition for body politic. Hold on.
Well, that is the definition of body politic from what I could find.
Oh, see, because when I Google it, I get the people of a nation, state, or society considered collectively as an organization as a group of citizens, right? So
I think we're gonna find a bunch of different definitions.
It would be all right with me if it was within there because you've got it, if somebody didn't want a body, you've got a definition right there by saying what it is.
Yeah, so I could just remove this piece here because this was just to help. So we could leave it just like this. I think that's good. Any thoughts?
That'll work.
Yeah, looks good to me.
Okay. So this, I'll leave this green since that we added that. Someone like to make a motion to approve the updated definition for city?
I, Janet, motion to approve the update to the definition of city.
I, Darren Boston, second the motion.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we'll need a roll call on this. We're updating the definition of city
And just for the motion, where is that located?
in the
Definitions.
definitions
Okay,
section.
thank you.
Yep,
All right, Ed,
yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. The next item you had, Janet, was you said, should there be a comma between the words investigate and report in the committee? Right now, it says a person or group of persons elected or appointed to perform some service or function, comma, as to investigate,
comma, report on or act.
comma, report on or act. Yep, that's good. So we added this comma right here. Okay, everyone, somebody want to make a motion to approve the comma under committee?
I, Janet, motion to approve the comma under committee between investigate and report in definitions.
There's a
I,
second?
Darren Boston, second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, another roll call on the update to the definition for committee.
Ed,
Yes,
Cleone.
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
thank you. The motion was approved.
okay, thank you. The next thing you said was under Mass General Law. You said that you thought the definition should also include references to general law and special laws throughout the charter. So what I did was I added this, what's in yellow. So it says now, if we approve it, it would say all references to general or special laws, I should put an S, contained in the charter, comma, that should be a comma.
gotta have a space between laws and
Space after laws.
up
Oh,
top.
yeah, sorry. All references to general or special laws contained in the charter, comma, refer to Massachusetts general laws and are noted using blah, 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 the following notation. So does this satisfy your question?
Yes, because I noticed in certain spots, as I had mentioned, that it was saying general and special laws. So I'm thinking, is that mass general laws or is there some other law that I'm not familiar with? And then I found all the way down in section 9 something that it actually said that. So then I went, oh, all right. So
No. Yep, I think that's a good catch. Thank you for that. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the updated definition of MGL?
I, Darren Boston, make a motion to approve the updated version of MGL or updated definition of MGL.
I
Second?
can't,
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we'll need a motion to approve the updated definition to MGL.
Ed,
Yes,
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Janet, your next thing here was a question, I think, about districts.
Yeah, and that was discussed last night in the,
Right, so right now, the way it's set up in Bridgewater is we have districts, district counselors, but we vote by precinct and there's a one-to-one relation. We have 7 districts, we have 7 precincts.
Yeah.
But you can have multiple precincts within a district, but they all have to be the same. So if you had, for example, if you added another precinct in District 1, you'd have to do the same thing in the other 6 districts. It has to be consistent across. So I'm not sure that that requires any charter change for us right now. It may require something, you know, in the next couple of months based on what Merrill Lee was talking about last night.
well, just as a side note, if I could.
Sure.
She mentioned, I'm just pulling it up on my thing. I found it on the video so I could say exactly what she said. She had suggested, you know, because there would be a charter change. It sounds like this was going to be changing soon. And if we're going through all this for the charter, she had recommended that in the charter not to specify a number. Say something like citizens should be, this is her writing. Citizens should be represented by 1 counselor from the district and at least 1 counselor at large. The number at large counselors shall be sufficient to ensure an uneven number of counselors. I mean, she went on, but it didn't specify. And then she said you could change it in the administration code, and that would be easier for them to change if down the road the precincts and districts changed again. If you keep it the way it is in the charter, then the charter has to be changed. So I was thinking that sounds like a good idea if you can do it generically so that the specific number doesn't have to be there, then, but I don't know.
Yeah,
what-
so my reaction to that is I also think it's a good idea. I just don't know if it's within our purview to do that right now, Janet.
Right, but.
So I think it could take us some time to sort of figure out how that would all be laid out and how it would look and everything. And I don't think we have the time to do that. So I think between the town attorney and the town council, as they address the re-precincting, that they will draft some new language and, you know, I mean, they've got to make a charter change anyway, so they will probably do it at that time.
Okay, I just figured bring it up now and.
Yep. No, I think that's good. Yeah, as I said, they're going to have more time to think about the proper wording and everything than we will at this point. So I'd rather push it off. So the next thing that you had was section 2(1)B. You said there should be a comma between district and district counselor and who. Let's go down to 2(1)B. Okay, so there were a few, 2(1)B, where are we? Right here. Is that the comma you were talking about?
Oh, okay. I'll tell you in a second. Let me get to my cheat sheet here.
Between district counselor and who? Let's see.
Oh, yeah, it's on the last sentence. If less than 12 months of term remains a district counselor. I didn't know, if you pause, the district counselor who remains a resident of the city may continue. I didn't know if there should be a comma between counselor and who and city and may.
Yeah, so I read it and I inserted the comma between city and may. I didn't think there needed to be one here. Let me read it again. If less than 12 months of the term remains, the district counselor who remains a resident of the city, comma, may continue to serve during the term which is elected.
You could read it either way.
Yeah. Okay, anyone want to make a motion to either insert 2 commas? There'd be one here as well, or just the 1 comma here. We can't take a lot of time on these guys. We just
Yep.
gotta-
I'll let somebody else talk about that one.
What'd you say, Janet?
Oh, I don't know either way, so I did my thinking. I'll let somebody else think.
Okay. I make a motion, Darren Boston, make a motion that we add 2 commas to this, to
I
section 2(1)B.
We'll second whatever he says.
Okay, so I'm going to put a comma there. Let me just put it as green, and we're going to put a comma here. Does that sound good to everybody?
Sure.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded to add these two commas. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we'll need a roll call for the changes made to 2-1B.
Ed,
Yes,
Leone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
okay, thank you. Moving on to section 2-1D. There were a few things here. There were a couple of commas that were added, as you can see in yellow. And then it just didn't sound right. I kind of agreed with Janet. So I struck out the word from and added the word upon. So if we read this again, we start here. This provision shall not prevent a city officer or employee who has taken a leave of absence from such duties to serve as a member of the city council upon returning to such office or employment following service as a member of the city council.
Sounds better. It just seemed too wordy. I read it over and over, and so that sounds better to use the word upon.
It is, I mean, it is kind of a compound sentence. There's a lot in there. We either have to decide to break it all up, or we just kind of, I think if we go with what we have here, it makes more sense than it did prior. So someone would like to make a motion on this?
I, Janet, motion to approve the changes in section 2D3.
Yep. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we'll need a roll call on changes to section 2-1D3.
Ed,
Yes,
Leone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
thanks. You're gonna have a busy night, Josh. Sorry.
Now that's perfectly okay.
All right, moving down to term limits. Janet, you had a comment here that had this kind of spilled over into, well, let's read the question. You said, do we need to somehow specify that it doesn't matter how long you serve in that term, even though we have term limits to the election, to be elections? I just picture someone questioning the length of time served. I think my answer to that is no. We do not need to specify how long you serve in the term. The terms are defined as 3 years. So if somebody serves less than 2 years and they leave if they move or whatever, and there's a person comes in to replace that person through the vacancy process, then you're still filling that single term. The 3-year term. However, I did make some changes here based on another comment you made in number 9, and that had to do with
Vacancies.
the vacancies, because when somebody's appointed to fill a town council position, when there's no one's running for office, no one gets elected, and the council appoints somebody, the term limit, the way it was read, did not address anybody that's appointed. So I just inserted what you see here in yellow to reflect that, whether you're elected or appointed as a councilor, the term limit would have an impact on you. So this what example might happen here for, say the vacancy was created in a particular council position, and the council appoints somebody to fill that position, say for 2 years. And then at the end of the 2 years, now that person who was appointed decides to run for election. And they run for that position and they get elected, essentially as an incumbent, because they had served as an appointed in the vacancy. So that the term limit would now impact them because they already served 2 years with the other term, and now they're serving in a new term. So it's going to be counted twice. They were appointed, that's once, and now they're elected, that's twice. And they can only be in a position for either 4 elections or 4 appointments, or a combination of both.
Yeah, that was my question, because we were talking about elected, and I was wondering if, well, if I'm appointed, I wasn't elected, so does that count? So having it this way answers that question.
Yeah, okay. Anyone have any discussion on this?
Yeah, I wanted to suggest that at that last sentence where it says person would exceed 4 elections, to add a lifetime term of no more than 4 elections. Because am I correct in interpreting the fact that it doesn't matter if it's consecutive or not? You're talking about like a lifetime, like that's the cap, 4 elections, period, and done?
Correct. However, if we look at number 3, if somebody fulfills the term limit up here in 1 or 2, they could switch positions. Remember, this is where we gave them another opportunity to run for another 4 terms. So they can essentially run for 8 terms or 24 years. So you're right in saying that it is lifetime, but my concern is if we stick lifetime in here, what does it do to number 3?
Well, can you put the lifetime in number 3, that they can't exceed lifetime of 8 elections? Because that's what it will turn out to be. But a lifetime of, I kind of agree with Cleone, because I was wondering that too, because some people are reading this, some people at the public forums said, they were like, wow, they can be there for 8 years, but it may or may not be consecutive. And, it's not, clear per se. Not that we have to specify every time somebody runs, but I kind of like the idea of saying lifetime, but I don't know how to put it in there. I can't help you on that.
Cleone, what were you saying to insert lifetime where? Right here?
This second, on number 2, last sentence, the service of the eligible person would not exceed a lifetime term of 4 elections.
You'd have to do that in the district one too.
Yeah, you'd have to do the same thing in number 1 that you do in number 2. I'm not comfortable with that for some reason. I think it's going to complicate. Because the terms are different. The terms are 3-year terms. And we're not using the word term here. We're using the word elections, right? So we're saying each time you're elected, you get to serve 3 years. So you can serve 12 years here and 12 years here. And then if you decide down here to switch to another position, you can serve another 12 years, which gives you the 24 years.
I think we were just talking about elections, not even mentioning years.
No, I know, I hear you. But I think the way Cleone worded it, she said terms. She said lifetime term. We don't use the word term here. It says no person shall be eligible if you exceed 4 elections or appointments to the city council. I think that achieves what we need to have it achieve, all right? Does it really need to say lifetime? I'm trying to understand the value of putting that word in there.
My point is to let folks understand that it's not consecutive or something that can be broken up, but it is within that person's lifetime, because I can see this leaving this gray area, like exceed 4 election, 4 elections. Is it consecutive? Is it, can I break it up 4 years, take a break, and then come back for another 4 years? So it was just to create that, to make it clear that it's within that person's lifetime. So you don't have to worry about if it's being consecutive or not.
Yeah, Janet?
That's reminded me of something I was thinking the other day. You know how I was wondering, how am I going to word this? If somebody,
Is this the same discussion we're having or something different?
no, it's within this, term, their term limits. Is there, if somebody switches districts or move from one and they have to, say I'm trying to I had it all, when I'm driving, I should have a tape recorder because I think of things when I'm driving. But would they say, well, I went to this district. It doesn't matter what district you're running for or anything. If you left one district, go to another, or
Right, if you move, if you're in District 1 and you're the district counselor in District 1 and then you move to District 2, and then you run, and you're still a district counselor. It's not, you get 4 elections in each district. You get four elections across all districts.
yeah, doesn't matter that you're switching or anything like that.
No.
And that's what my suggestion would suggest, because then it does, we're having this dialogue for clarification right now, but without saying it's within your lifetime, regardless of district, I think that it can leave that opening, which we're trying to fix, right? I think we had consecutive before, and then someone took advantage of that loophole. So just trying to anchor that statement to something that is not ambiguous as someone's lifetime versus if it's district, or I understand that if you go from district counselor to at large, you can then add another 4 years. Is that what that number 3 is saying? That you can serve 4?
Not 4 years, 4 elections.
4 elections, 4 elections. So it is allowing you as a district counselor to serve for 4 elections, and then at large again, you can do it for another 4 election cycle.
Right. So the max you could serve would be 8 election cycles, which is 24 years. And it doesn't have to be consecutive. It can be, you can take breaks in between. It could span over your lifetime if you wanted it to. I'm just, I understand what you guys are trying to get at here. I'm just wondering if the way it's worded, since we don't use the word consecutive, it implies that you can take breaks in between. It just says you're not eligible if you exceed 4 elections or appointments, period. So does lifetime help us? Is it needed? And I'm willing to put it in. I'm just trying to figure out if it's needed, and if we did put it in, where would we put it? Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, I don't think it adds anything. I think what you have there, it's enough. We don't want to just keep adding more and more if it's not adding any value. We already stated that you can be elected for well, we're not using the terms, but you can be, counselor for 4 elections or at large for 4 elections, but not more than that. That's right. That represents lifetime.
It does. It's implied.
Does it imply that it's not saying you can't run? You would have to be elected. An election meaning that
It
You
says
are.
it says you're not eligible. If you've already been elected 4 times and you try and get on the ballot a 5th time, the clerk will say you're not eligible because the charter says you cannot run again. It's really an eligibility issue.
I'm trying to make sure there's no loophole there.
Right. Yeah, I think we all want that. I'm just trying to, it's simple right now, the way it's worded. And I think it's implied that it's lifetime. So I'm not sure that adding it does anything for us. And then I have a problem about where to put it if we did decide to put. So I can't make a motion, so I'd leave it up to you guys.
I would,
And just to address sorry.
so I was gonna say, 24 years from now, this charter is going to be reviewed at least, what, 3 times by then? So if it becomes a bigger issue by the time we get to the end of that 3rd review, it can be addressed then that the word lifetime needs to be added.
And I want to, to Ed's point about it being implied, the consecutive was implied and it was a perfect loophole, right? And so it's one thing if this wasn't an issue, this was one of the hot topics. And so to add that layer of 2 words, lifetime, I think it would be in our best interest to do that because that implied understanding of consecutive was used. This is one of those hot topics. So just trying to get rid of any gray area or loophole and not rely on what is implied.
Cleone, just a clarification, in the current charter, it's not implied. Consecutive is actually spelled out in the charter. It says 12 consecutive years.
Got it.
So what Bill did was he resigned, right? So he figured out, well, it says consecutive, so if I resign, I get around that word. So in this case, however, if you say somebody's not eligible, if you exceed 4 elections or 4 times being elected, there is no loophole there. Because if you try and run a 5th time, you're not eligible. But Cleone, if you want to make a motion and insert the proper words in there, we'll see if it's seconded and we can vote on it. Otherwise, we're going to need to move on.
Yeah, we'll move on. I don't think it has enough support.
I would also think that if we were to add something like lifetime, we would also have to add a definition of what that represents.
Good point. We might have to, because that might mean different things to different people. Whatever. Okay, well then we do need a motion to approve what I've added in yellow to address the appointed situations. So if somebody wants to make that, we can vote on that.
Hi, Janet, motion to approve in section, we're still in 2.
2(1)(e).
To include the word appointed and/or.
Is there a second?
Cleone Manuel, second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we're making updates to section 2-1E, term limits.
Okay. Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yeah.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you. All
So-
right, section 2-3C. Number 4, you said needed to be indented. I changed that. That's indented right now. It all lines up. You said number 5 needs a space between city and year. I think I put that in there, but you can't highlight a space, so.
Yep.
But it's in there. And then number 6, you said the first sentence reads odd to me. So what I did was I removed this comma that's in red and inserted a new comma over here that's in yellow, and I think it reads better. The council president shall call no fewer than 2 meetings, one of which will be the annual state of the city meeting of the general public each fiscal year, comma, for the purpose of obtaining public input to the policies of the city. I think it's this of the general public each fiscal year, which you need to, it's part of this phrase here. So when you put the comma in there and you break it up, it doesn't sound right. But if you read the whole sentence, let the sentence flow, and you stop it here, it seems to read better to me anyways.
Yes. That one thing, general public, with the comma before it was throwing me off.
Okay, so you want to make a motion to approve this update?
I, Janet, motion to approve the comma update on section 2-3.
2-3C6.
Sorry.
It's all right. Is there a second?
I, Darren Boston, second the motion.
Thank you, Darren. Any further discussion?
Not necessarily on the comma, but it says, where it says the council president shall call no fewer than 2 meetings. I was wondering if there's value putting 2 annual meetings to be more specific. Is that what we're referencing? 2 annual meetings versus monthly versus anything else?
Well, it does say one of which will be the annual state of the city meeting for the purpose of obtaining public input. So one is annual, then the other,
In each fiscal year, it says each fiscal year.
yeah. I mean, if you put in annual, then it's and then it says one of which will be annual. Do you really need it there?
No, I guess not.
Okay, let's move on then to the next one, which is section.
Got a
Ed,
vote.
yeah, we didn't vote yet.
I thought we voted, sorry. What did we have, a motion and a second?
Yep.
Okay, so Josh, the changes here are to 2-3C6.
Ed,
Yes,
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
thank you. All right,
Ed, I had a question back at 6, just for my own clarification. So what are the 2 meetings that we're referencing here? I don't know. It says 2 meetings, one of which will be the annual state of the city meeting. What's the second meeting? Public input?
It's unspecified.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I
It
mean,
could be,
it could be just a forum to gather input from the citizens. It's basically the president's call to have at least an annual state of the city meeting, but then it's his or her option to decide on what the format would be for the other meeting.
okay, thanks for that clarification.
Good question. Thank you. All right, section 2.4, Janet, you said there was too much spacing between become and council. You're right, I think there was an extra space, so I removed that.
Okay.
I don't think we need to vote on that one.
No, let me this typo.
Okay, section 2.5C, we already talked about that. That was the vacancy. But if you want to go down and look at it here, this was the section filling the vacancies. So we corrected, or we answered your question by going up and changing the term limit language. Okay, so we're done with that one. The next one was 2.6C. You said we needed to add this, I think, by the clerk of the council.
I was wondering if we should,
No, I think that's good. Yep.
because it's number 5, so put it number 4.
It adds clarification to who's actually duly recording this, right? So if you want to make a motion to add that,
I, Janet, motion to add by the clerk of the council for section 2-6C, number
4.
4.
I, Darren Boston, second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we're voting on section 2-6C4.
Ed,
Yes,
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, the next one was on number 7. You said, should time frame be 1 word or 2 words?
That was,
Um,
that was being a picky thing.
It was picky, but I put a space in between the two because most times it's used as time, space, frame. So I'm fine with that. Number 15, you said should timely be added in the last part of the last sentence. So but what I did was I crossed off efficient because I don't think we need all of these. I think timely sort of replaces efficient, maybe. Let's see, furthermore, city council members shall set clear expectations for addressing and responding to residents in an equitable, effective, and timely manner.
I'm fine with that. Or,
I'm okay if you want all 4 of them. It just didn't sound effective and efficient and timely. I'm not sure we need all of them, but so I want to make a motion.
Janet, motion to add in section 2-6C, number 15, the word timely and remove efficient.
Eichmann Mainville, second.
Okay, any further discussion?
I just wanted to mention that in a couple places, it seems like, so when you put in timely or time frame, reasonable time frame, to me, it's kind of vague. I'm not saying, no, it's wrong, but to me, it's kind of vague, like it's like open, like what's considered timely, what's considered a reasonable time frame. But that's just my observation.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's sort of a subjective word, but aren't all of these words subjective? Like what's equitable? What's effective? They're all adjectives that describe,
Yeah, but when you're talking about time, when we refer to time where it's a number, we can give it a value, whereas other things would need more description. But
okay.
But anyway, I'm not, I'm okay with it. I'm just saying that I've seen in a few places where we have reasonable time frame or reasonable time. It's whereas what's a reasonable time? It's kind of vague. That's all.
Okay. Do you want to amend the motion to include a specific time frame here, Darren, or are you just
No,
making?
I've seen it in other places too. And I don't want to go, open up a can of worms. And
Okay.
I think we have discussed that, if I'm remembering right, discussed it on other situations, like Darren said, we've seen it, but in certain circumstances, it was going to perhaps hinder if we put a specific time. It was certain situations, it was difficult to say, you have to get this done, within 10 days, 30 days, or 2 months. So there were certain circumstances we felt we couldn't put a specific time. So, but I understand what he's saying.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion on the motion? All right, if not, then Josh, we're going to be voting on section 2-6C15.
Okay, and that's to remove the word efficient and replace with timely.
Correct.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. Tom, are you awake?
Yes.
Lost
All
time.
right, good. We just want to make sure. Otherwise, we'll order some coffee for you.
I just finished the can of Coke. Hopefully it kicks in the next minute.
All right, section 2-9, you said there was a space needed between website and city. I think I did that. Yep, I did that. We don't need to vote on spaces. Section 3-1, you said should regional be capitalized? I think it should be, so I made it capitalized right here. We say
Right.
city council, regional school committee, elected city clerk, board. So I agree with you. That was a good catch. So someone want to make a motion to capitalize the R?
I, Darren, Buss-
Go ahead, Darren.
I, Darren Buss, make a motion to capitalize the R in regional in section 3.1.
Okay, thanks, Darren.
Hi,
Second.
Janet. I second.
Okay, any further discussion? All right, Josh, roll call on, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh. Josh, change to section 3-1, capitalizing the R on regional.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, thank you.
Ed, can we go back up? I had a question. That's why I was, because I knew the minute we said
Yeah.
we would go. Under 3-1, I think it was talking about the city manager did the appointment. Who appointed us? I wanted to,
The council.
if I read. So should we mention that? Because I think, let's see, I wrote the notes, but I didn't. It says all other offices, boards, committees, and agencies shall be appointed by the city manager. Do we need to be considered an appointed committee under the town council?
So we're a special committee because the
Okay.
charter identifies us having a specific role every 6 years to review and update the charter. And I forget what section, but it talks specifically about the council appointing us.
Perfect.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome. All right, moving down to section 3.3B. What did you say? Oh, Jen, lots of shalls in this section, LOL. Yeah, right.
The other words shall, I was just noticing that. I wasn't asking that we had to change them, but I was just like, wow.
I know. Need a comma instead on number C. Need a comma, which I've inserted here in yellow. You can see it. And then also, what was this one here?
I said, there's a word, it seems like there was a word missing between thereafter and order. This is the first sentence of the second paragraph. So if the officer doesn't resign within 5 business days or thereafter, the city shall. Did you add
Yeah.
that?
I added the city council shall, because that's who's doing this. So yeah, that was a good catch.
Something seems.
So why don't we, if somebody wants to make a motion to approve the comma and what we've added here in section 3-3C.
I, Janet, motion to accept the changes for section 3-3C by adding a comma and the words
The city council.
city council shall.
city council shall, all right.
Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? Who seconded that?
Tom, sorry.
Oh, Tom, okay.
I'm awake, don't worry.
Sounded so enthusiastic.
Okay, no further discussion on this. All right, Josh, we're making changes to section 3.3C.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. All right, 3.4D, in the second paragraph, the third line, it appears that there's a space missing between the word unexpired term and of. I must have corrected that one, unexpired. If I saw an extra space, I just went in and deleted it, so I don't know where it is. Now, sometimes it appears, and this has to do with the way Word is doing this, Janet. I know you pointed this out in a number of places. Because of the way the settings are in Word, when it justifies the text, it'll add a bigger space like in here and here than it did up here.
No,
Because Word is doing that.
I know you had more, but these particular ones that I pointed out seemed a little bit more than they should.
Yeah, and I think I did find one here and I removed it. I just don't remember where it was. You said it was between the word unexpired term and of. So if it doesn't pop out to you, then let's just assume it's done, okay? I can actually put this over here.
Yeah, I don't see it now. Yeah, I don't see it.
Okay, all right, moving along here. Section 3.4D. Oh, we already did that one. That was the one we just did, okay. Section 4.6. In the sentence, the city manager shall be for a term not to exceed 3, 6 months. Yeah, that was an omission. So I removed in parentheses 3, and now it just says 6. Okay. So we should probably vote on that. So it used to say, I'm sorry, I probably should have put it in red. It used to say in left paren 3, right paren. So that was something that should have been taken out earlier. It just wasn't. It was an omission. So right now, this is correct the way it should read. Someone want to make a motion to approve this one?
I, Janet, motion to approve in section 4-6, removing of the word in parentheses 3. That
I,
was,
Thomas Golden, will second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, need a roll call on this one?
Ed,
Yes.
Leone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, now we're going to move down to Article 6. It looks like 6.3A. Okay, so here, what I did was I removed the word or and replaced it with and. So it should say the city council shall publish in a newspaper of general circulation in the city, if required by law, comma, and the city's official website.
that was consistent with the other ones down the road, as I pointed out.
Yeah. Yep, no, that was a good catch. Another oversight. We should have caught that earlier, but we didn't. So someone want to make a motion to approve this update to 6.3A?
I'll go for it. I, Janet, approve, a motion to approve the removal of or in section 6-3A.
And replace it with and.
Oh, and replace with and, sorry.
Yep. Is there a second?
I, Cleone Mainville, approve. Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, Josh, we're gonna roll call on this one, please.
Ed,
Yes.
Leone,
Yes.
Darren,
yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. And likewise, under section 6.4, we had the same situation here, where it just said or the city's website. So I removed or and replaced it with and. So if somebody wants to make a motion to approve that.
I, Thomas Golden, motion to approve the replacing with or with and in 6.4.
Okay, and a second.
I, Darren Boston, second the motion.
Thank you, Darren. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we're going to need to approve this one as well.
Ed,
Yes?
Leone.
Yeah.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, 6.4B. There was a reference to the MGL that was right in front here. I'm sorry, I wasn't consistent in how I did this. Some of them I put in red, but this one I just deleted it. and left the so what was in here was the old way that we referred to it and the new way. So I just deleted the old way. So if someone wants to make a motion to approve the change to 6.4B, removing the old reference to MGL.
I, Thomas Golden, motion to approve 6.4B's change.
I,
Second.
Darren Boston, second the motion.
Thank you, Darren. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we're going to need to have a roll call on this one.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone?
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yep.
Janet,
Yes,
thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. Okay, moving down to 6.4D. There were two references to 14 days here, but it omitted calendar. So that was a good catch as well, Janet. So I just inserted the word calendar here and calendar here. So you can make one motion to approve changes to 6.4D.
Janet, motion to approve the changes in 6.4D of adding the word calendar.
I, Darren Boston, second the motion.
Thanks, Darren. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we need to roll call on 6.4D, numbers 1 and 2.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone?
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, moving down to 6.8. The first paragraph, it appears that there's too much spacing between some of the words. So I just removed the spacing, so it looks better now. Thank you for that, Janet. Moving down to section 6.9B. It says the B needs to move down. Oh, this was an issue of alignment or something, right?
yeah, the B was above it.
Yeah. I think there should be a space between these two also right here. So let me just put that space in and get this out of here. Okay, that looks better. Okay, so the motion on this one here, 6.9, would be to separate the paragraphs A and B.
Well, they were separate. It's just that the B was in between them. So
Oh, okay. So you don't think we need a motion on this, Janet?
I wouldn't think so. It's just a matter of the B was not in the right place.
Yeah, just a realignment. Okay. Not like we need to take more roll calls, right? We're just keeping Josh really busy here. He thought he was going to be able to sleep like Tom, but he can't.
Ha ha.
All right, section 8.1B. What's this here?
There was the word
Oh, that-
own.
This was my clarification to your question. I'll remove that. I put an explanation. This was an explanation that I put to answer your question from above, but we already talked about it.
Oh, about the districts.
Yeah, so I can remove that. It was just a footnote that I put in there. So, and then this, here we go. Okay, so what did I say? 8.1B?
Correct.
Okay, here you said may be lawfully adopted by the city council. This said own, so that was a reference to town. That should have said town council. Somehow it just ended up being own. So we're going to remove own and replace it with city.
I wouldn't think we would need to roll call for that because you changed city on everybody else.
Well, let's take a roll call on this one. 8.1B, somebody needs to make a motion.
I
Remove.
did to remove the word own from section 8-1 and replace it with city in B.
I, Darren Boston.
Ackland,
second the
may
motion.
vote second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, need a roll call on section 8.1B.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. 8.1C, this is the paragraph. It was sort of a run-on sentence here. Janet, I think you were right. There were commas needed to kind of break it up. So these were the commas that I inserted to make it clearer to read.
that's definitely better with commas.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion to approve these changes to 8.1C?
I, Darren Boston, make a motion to approve the commas added to section 8.1C.
I, Janet, second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we need a roll call on this one?
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. Next one was 8.7B. Janet suggested changing 2 months to 60 calendar days, which I agree with that. I think that's a good change.
I, Thomas Golden, motion to approve the change in 8-7B.
I, Janet, second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, need a roll call on this one, please?
Ed,
Yes?
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, section 9.1. This was the same as the one above. We had an old reference to MGL replaced with the new one.
I, Thomas
I, Da-
Golden, motion to approve section 9.1A's change.
I, Darren Boston, second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, need a roll call on section 9.1A.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
She asleep?
No, I'm here. Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
See what you started, Tom, it's catching.
Get a can of Coke, it makes a world of difference.
All right, section 9.2A. There were some spaces here, Janet, that you didn't like between several words in the first sentence. I did my best to remove them, but again, you know, the width of the space is kind of determined by word at this point. So,
that's fine. It just, if I see it, I ask, so.
yeah, okay, no problem. Thank you for that. Section 9.7, you said you're still a little confused on this one. Let's go down. So your question was where it says if they miss 3 consecutive meetings, they will be removed, but okay. So let's read through it here. It says an official appointed by either the city council or the city manager to a multiple member body, and I added, may be removed from office by the appointing authority if the official fails to attend regularly scheduled meetings for a period of, no, I didn't add it. I'm sorry. That was there. I just highlighted it. I'm sorry, I'm confusing you guys. There's 2 things going on here. One is if the person fails to attend regular meetings, 3 consecutive meetings without approval from the chair of that body, then they may be removed from office. It says here, they may be removed from office. So a decision has to be made. If they don't show up for 3 meetings, 3 consecutive meetings, the chair of that body will make a decision whether or not to remove that person. However, down here, it says the appointed official shall be automatically removed if the official is convicted of a felony or if they're absent from the duties for a period of 6 months without permission. See the difference, Janet?
Yes.
Okay. So that was just clarifying that. So I'm going to take the yellow off of this one.
I think by the time I was getting down there and reading this whole charter, I was up late reading it and commenting, and
You guys are all going to be, you're all going to be charter experts. This is going to be great.
you saw what time I sent the email to you, you'd know why I was tired.
All right, last but not least, section 9.9. Should city council be capitalized? I agree, it should be. Someone like to make a motion?
I, Janet, motion to approve the change to section 9-9 of capitalizing city council.
Hi, Thomas Golden, second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we need a roll call on this, please.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
All right. Thank you for your patience on that. I think it was well worth the effort to make those updates. And once again, Janet, thank you. And Cleone, you had mentioned earlier that you thought you might have some things you want to point out as well. Do you have a list in front of you?
I can share my screen because I just made the comments within the document and didn't have time to put it, organize it.
Okay. Why don't you share your screen then? Josh, you need to give her host capabilities, I think.
Yeah, she's all set.
Can you see my screen?
yes,
So under advisory committee, I have here that this should say of a, let's see, such a committee is a collection of individuals who bring unique knowledge and skills which augment the knowledge of a city officer instead of and a city officer.
Okay, so how are we gonna?
Oh, that's right. How do you reflect the change?
I want to make the change to the actual document. I think it would be better if maybe you look through your document and just guide me to where it needs to be, and you can read your change.
That makes sense. Okay, that works.
Why don't you stop sharing and I'll go back. All right, so what section was that?
It's on the definition advisory committee.
Okay, right here. So where was it again? You said,
So when you're looking at such a committee as a collection, that it's in that sentence.
such a committee is a collection of individuals who bring unique knowledge and skills which augment the knowledge of.
Of a city officer or agency.
Okay, so and needs to become of. Okay. Someone want to make a motion to approve this change to the definition of advisory committee? Janet, how did you miss that one?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm bad.
I, Darren Boston, make a motion to change and to of in the definition for advisory committee.
Is there a second?
Cleone Meadenville, second.
Any further discussion? All right, Josh, need a roll call to update the definition of advisory committee.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay, next.
And actually, there was two here, and I apologize for that. Where it says subject area, it says such committees are limited to a particular subject area. I wanted to suggest that it's area of focus versus subject area.
What's the difference?
Subject does seem very academic versus an area of focus, but I'm not committed to that.
Such committees are limited to a particular subject area. Could go either way.
I retract.
Okay.
I retract.
All right, what else you got?
Chief Administrative Officer. Oh, you know, before that, charter. There is a place further down where we state that this document is going to be referenced as Bridgewater Home Rule Charter. And so instead of indicating charter here, which is a short title, I wanted to propose that we put Bridgewater Home Rule Charter and then define it and indicate that the short title is charter.
I'm not sure I followed you on that.
Let's see. You know what? Let's revisit it as I go down because I pointed down further. Because the proper term for this document is the Bridgewater Home Rule Charter, and
Where do you see that?
The Bridgewater Home Rule Charter. It's under the title that says short title, and it's not
Under Article 1?
It's Section 1-2. Unless I interpreted it incorrectly.
Yep, this instrument may be cited and shall be known as the Bridgewater Home Rule Charter. Okay.
But the short title, how we've referenced it, is actually charter throughout the document. It's only referenced as Bridgewater Home Rule Charter in this section. So we need to clarify that the short title is actually charter.
The short title is Bridgewater Home Rule Charter.
So what's the long?
Well, maybe yeah, then what is the long title?
There is no long title. But there's nothing defined as I think this is a standard template when the charter was originally put together. I'm not even sure why there is a short title, but if you look at there's a model charter that was put out by the National Civic League, and we kind of used that as a baseline to develop our charter, and then we used other city charters and sort of tweaked it, blah, blah, blah. So this was kind of standard language. I don't feel comfortable getting in and modifying it, to be honest with you, because I'm not really.
I guess my point would be is that we need to, in the definition of charter, indicate that it is also referenced as a Bridgewater Home Charter, because since that's the definition. So I didn't know if it would be appropriate to put that we're defining Bridgewater Home Rule Charter as charter, or charter is also considered Bridgewater Home Rule Charter.
Well, I think so. We're defining the word charter here, right? Mm-hmm. But now even looking at this definition, this really doesn't define what a charter is, because it references a charter. It says this charter and any amendments to it made through the methods provided under Article 89 of the amendments to the Constitution. It's not really it's not really a definition of charter.
I noticed that, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't comment, but I think something needs to be added there. I mean, you could keep that in there if you want, but add something to say what a charter is. And Cleone mentioning the Home Rule Charter, but what a charter is.
So I just looked it up. I Googled and it says a charter is a written grant by a country's, or in our case, a state's legislative, power by which a body, it basically gives us self-governing authority. So, but we're authorized to have a charter by Article 89 of the amendments to the Constitution. So, I mean, a charter is yeah. I think we can do a better, we can leave this in there, but we need to add something up front here that says, what is a charter?
Right.
A document issued by a government that gives rights to the municipality. A document which declares that a city, town, school, or corporation be established. A document that describes basic laws. So there's a variety of different definitions. You want me to try and update this for our next meeting?
I'm wondering, in the description of this committee on the website, it talks about what the charter is, something about the constitution of the town. I can't change my screen because I have my edits, your edits. I don't know if anyone else can look on the town page where it describes this committee and why we're formed. I think there was a good definition, because then it helped me to understand what we're doing somewhat.
Cleone, did you go under in the town of Bridgewater website and put charter committee? Is that how you found it, or how do we?
It went.
I have it.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
I'm just trying to find. I'm
Yeah,
on our website.
There's nothing, I'm on our website too, and there's nothing that defines charter on our website. I think rather than spend time doing this here, why don't I just make a note, unless somebody wants to do this, otherwise I'll do it for our next meeting. New definition or updated, we need an updated definition for charter.
And in addition to that, Ed, we do need to incorporate the Bridgewater Home Rule Charter term, or else it just kind of hangs on its own within the body and it doesn't have necessarily direct correlation to this shorter reference of charter.
Yeah, I guess I'm still not totally clear on that, Cleone, because one is defining what short title is, and one is defining what a charter is.
And maybe my problem is I don't understand. I'm using short title figuratively, like charter is a shorter title than Bridgewater Home Rule Charter, but you're saying that that short title doesn't mean, it means something else. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's a legal term, and we can look it up and see if it is, but I think it just needs a little more investigation. I understand your point. So we have to determine if there's a need to correlate short title with charter. So correlate short title with the charter definition.
And I don't know how much of it is to correlate that subcategory of short title versus do we need to correlate the term charter with Bridgewater Home Rule Charter? Are they, it feels like we're referencing the same thing, and someone who's reading this needs to understand that both terms is referencing the same document.
Yeah, but see, again, this is just a definition of the word charter. This doesn't necessarily mean Bridgewater's charter or anyone else's charter. It's just a generic, for somebody who doesn't know what a charter is, this is supposed to define what a charter is. It's not supposed to necessarily.
But shouldn't it,
Like a board,
it,
like a board. This is the definition of what a board is. It's a number
but
of
it should be the
persons.
definition as used in this charter. Like board, it's not the school board. It's how this definition in the charter is how we're using it. So we're providing the definition as we want the reader to understand it in the context of this document. So we wouldn't be, and that's why you have definition, right? Or else you could
So-
get,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Article 89 is the Home Rule Amendment. So there's the linkage right there. It says this charter and any amendments made to it provided under Article 89 of the, I mean, we could put in parentheses, this is the Home Rule Amendment, which is how it became the Bridgewater Home Rule Charter. Even though technically, I'm not sure about this, but we have a special act charter. When our charter went in 2010, our town attorney at the time, Mark Gilday, he made a decision on his own not to go through the Home Rule Amendment process. That's one way a town can get a charter. Another way you can get a charter, which is quicker, is to go through a special act process, which is what he chose. So our charter is considered a special act charter, which concerns me a little bit about the fact that we have a short title here. It's called the Bridgewater Home Rule Charter, but we didn't go through the Home Rule Amendment process. So can you guys let me do some more research on this to clarify this? I understand what you're getting at, Cleone, and I want to provide some clarity around that. So you
Sounds
guys,
fair.
can we just table it for now, and I'll come back with some update on this at our next meeting? Okay, what else did you have?
So under Chief Administrative Officer, to your point, I think that this definition is very general, and I wanted to propose that it be more specific and identify the town manager as our Chief Administrative Officer.
I think isn't that already referenced in the charter under Article 4? Article 4. I think it already identifies him or her as the, I thought it says will serve as the Chief Administrative Officer.
It does, but it doesn't. The language that I would like to propose. One, you know, this document is
Right here.
to be read.
City manager shall be the Chief Administrative Officer of the city. So somebody's reading this. I think the point is, what is a Chief Administrative Officer? Somebody doesn't know what a CAO is. They would go up to the definitions and find the definition of what a CAO is.
I didn't see any harm in reinforcing it in the definition in the event that you're reading the definitions first and proposing, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see any harm either. I don't want to be redundant either. So, okay, do you have a suggested?
I do. The town manager serves as the city's chief administrative officer and manages the daily administration and operation of the city of Bridgewater and is ultimately responsible for its performance.
That'd be the city manager?
Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
Sorry about that too.
Yeah. The city manager serves, keep going, sorry.
As the city's chief administrative officer and manages the daily administration and operation.
City manager serves as the city's chief administrative
officer
and
manages the daily administration and operation of the city of Bridgewater and is ultimately responsible for its performance.
I know there's some spelling errors. I'll go back. That's not right.
Bridgewater before that.
The city manager serves as the city's chief administrative officer and manages the daily. Okay,
I, Cleone Mainville, motion to change the chief administrative officer definition.
I, Thomas Golden, will second.
okay. Any further discussion? Okay, Josh? Roll call on the definition for chief administrative officer. Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. Anything else, Cleone?
City, yeah, city, under city officer. I had a question if it mentions city office, and I was wondering if it should say city agency, since city agency is already defined versus introducing a new term of city office.
Any thoughts on that, folks? I'm just looking at it myself here, trying to decide if that makes sense.
Say that one more time.
So in the term city officer, it references the function of a city office. That term isn't defined anywhere. So I'm not sure what a city office is, but if we're referencing city agency, that term is already defined. So just looking to be consistent with the terms that we use. So if city agency is already defined above and we are referencing one in the same, instead of saying city office, just putting in city agency.
I'd be good. That makes sense to me now. Sorry.
Yep.
what about a town clerk? They're in an office or are they an agency? They're elected.
They're a city officer.
But she serves in okay, would you consider it, oh, it says office up top, never mind.
Yep.
Sorry.
Okay, someone might want to make a motion to replace office with agency under the definition of city officer.
I, Cleone Mainville, motion to change the term city office to city agency under the definition of city officer.
There's a second?
I, Thomas Golden, will second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we're updating the definition for city officer. Need a roll call.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Next.
All right, don't hate me. City official, I have here that first sentence towards the end where it says, and others who work for or with the city. I wanted to propose that it says work for, with, or on behalf of the city.
So it says right now, it says all employees, consultants, agents, and others who work for or with the city at all times. And what do you want to change it to?
I want to change it to all employees, consultants, agents, and others who work work for, with, or on behalf of the city.
Work for, with, or
Or on behalf.
Oops, sorry. All employees, consultants, agents, and others who work for, with, comma, or on behalf of the city at all times while on duty, while on or in city property, whether on duty or off duty, and contractors and vendors and their personnel. Wow, that's a long sentence. And the occasion.
no different than a lot of other long sentences.
Right.
it seemed longer, yeah.
I think the legal folks do that just to make their jobs more interesting and to make it more difficult for lay people to understand what it is they're talking about. So I like that, Cleone.
I, Cleone Mainville, motion to add the term on behalf of the city to the definition of city official.
I, Janet, second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we'll need a roll call on the updated definition for city official.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. You got more, Cleone?
Under commission, and I welcome pushback on this one, it says the government, a warrant or authority or letters of patent issuing from the government. Just wondering if this should be more specific. What government are we referencing? City, state, federal?
I wouldn't go more specific.
Yeah, I think you want to
Okay.
keep it general because it implies any government agency.
Perfect. Just wanted clarification on that.
Yeah.
This last sentence seemed incomplete to me since it doesn't indicate what the planning, supervision, and coordination of what. So just wanted to get everyone's feedback on that. It seemed like there's a word missing here.
I think this is too many words for. A commission is an independent agency given responsibility for planning, supervision, and coordination.
Yeah, so you got to take the word the out.
Yeah, I would just get rid of the. And I know there's no subject to the end of that, Cleone, but I don't think it's necessary.
It's describing a function.
taking the word the helps, because putting it in, like you only said, there's something missing at the end.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
Okay. A motion to remove the word the.
I, Thomas Golden, motion to remove the word "the" from the last sentence of the definition for commission.
I, Janet, second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Josh, we need a roll call to update the definition of commission.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay.
I'm glad Cleone.
Emergence,
Oh, sorry.
pardon?
I was saying, I was glad you went through the definitions because I did not go through the definitions.
Well, great.
We make a good team, Janet. So under emergency, I'm just going to call on emergency. Where is it? All right. I'm just going to call on, this was a big issue in my previous role, and I want to suggest that we expand this definition to include this term here, to save lives and to protect property and public health and safety. Because if it remains like this, it makes it too vague as to what an emergency will entail. So I'm just
Okay,
going to
so-
read what I'm proposing entirety. Do you want to just put it in there in yellow so that folks could have a visual?
Yeah, you're not just adding to the end of this, you're going to change the whole front too?
No, it would be adding to the end.
Yeah.
And I
'cause
know
would
we
put a
don't like
comma.
making it too wordy. Mhm.
Yeah, if we put a comma here and then you say, add what you're going to add.
Okay, to save lives and to protect property and public health and safety,
Okay.
comma, or to lessen or avert the threat,
To lessen or avert.
the threat of a catastrophe in any part of the city of Bridgewater, period.
A sudden, unexpected, unforeseen happening or occurrence or condition which necessitates immediate action. Do we need that comma there? Action to save lives
No.
and to protect property and public health and safety, or to lessen or avert the threat of a catastrophe in any part of the city of Bridgewater. Wow, that's good.
I disagree. I think I think it's too restrictive. What about a financial emergency? What about human resource emergency?
What would that be? I mean, what would a financial emergency need to be? Because the emergency, once you trigger that, it lessens public comment, it lessens public engagement, and I would want to understand what a financial emergency would
Sure.
necessitate
let's
that
say-
kind of, yeah.
Let's say that the city was under the impression that we had X amount of funds in a bank account because we were looking at pre-printed statements. But for some reason, the bank account was actually at zero and they had received forged statements, right? That requires an immediate investigation to figure out what the no swearing, Tom, what happened, what's going on, right? Like that's a financial emergency. Or there needs to be a sudden expending of funds for litigation. This just doesn't address a financial emergency, is my point.
So actually, this is a two-part sentence, at least from what I can see, is that the emergency is actually defined right here.
Right.
This is the actual definition of emergency to
Right.
me. It's general. It could be anything. What you've added, Cleone, is really what to do in an emergency.
Actually, I am defining what an emergency would be. An emergency would be something that you need to act upon to save the life of someone or protect their property. So in the case of what Tom is saying, if the financial emergency will cause someone to lose their property or not be able to put infrastructure in place for public health and safety, then it would be considered an emergency. But if we think about what is an emergency in general, it is something that can affect your life or your health or physical, the property is burning down. And so I am proposing that anything beyond that be given the grace period and fall under the checks and balance that we have already in place. Because otherwise, when you say this is an emergency, it does give the town council or the town manager permission to by-step a lot of the safety mechanism, the checks and balances that we have in the charter. So I'm just saying, what do we define? We, define what an emergency is to allow folks to sidestep all of the checks and balances that we, not all, but specific checks and balances that we have within the charter.
I did look up financial emergency, and it is when there is a lack of liquid cash or assets available to pay ongoing commitments such as vendors, pension, payroll, or bond payments. A government may face a drop in revenue due to national, regional, or economic shutdown, instituting a financial emergency.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I know this is discussed somewhere in the charter. Which article, which section is this brought up? Because it's brought up the emergency measure. Maybe it would help if we go back and see where it's addressed to know what the.
That's a really great point.
All right, hold on a minute.
I just can't remember where it was. I should have read it on.
There's 31 occurrences of an emergency. Let's go down.
But I know the emergency measure was addressed somewhere. Maybe it's with the town council section. I don't know. I remembered reading it.
Right here. This is in 2.3 under the council president. In times of public danger or emergency, the council president may blah, blah, blah.
And 2.7 is measures, emergency measures, and charter objection.
Yep. Yep. All emergency measures here.
It said, oh, if you went back up, where was it? I just saw emergency measure, line 1, maybe right there. Oop, stop. No measure making a grant, blah, 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 except this, and after, I think it was saying something, it was like, what constitutes an emergency shall be.
So Tom, I understand your point is that if you be too specific, then you might run the risk of leaving something out. And you found something now that you feel may not be qualified as an emergency because we haven't defined it as an emergency, where
Right.
we've defined other things now in the definition as emergencies, right?
Right.
So would you be satisfied if we added something to the definition that would say financial, or are you afraid that this something else that it's unknown that we don't know about that could be an emergency?
I mean, adding financial helps. I don't think I would vote to be as prescriptive as that anyways. I mean, I think if you pull anything out of like COVID, for example, a lot of emergency stuff had to happen really quickly, right? Not, and I mean, that was for public health and safety, like I get it, but other things went along with that. Like you're never going to be able to write an all-encompassing definition, or at least in my opinion. I'm going to guess the rest of the group is going to vote to approve it anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
No, I mean,
Well, I don't think
Darren.
I don't think the definition of emergency here was intended to be the way it's being described now. I mean, emergency as definition is how it's being used in the charter, not how it's, all the definitions of what would be an emergency. I think it was intended to be used to to define how it is being used in the charter, not necessarily all the definitions of what an emergency would be.
Yeah, and then look at it, this is it's kind of being redefined again here. An emergency is an
Yeah.
unexpected and difficult or dangerous situation which happens suddenly. An emergency measure is the actions required to deal with it. So it's almost like we've got two definitions of an emergency.
Yeah, I think it was fine the way it was to keep it simple because it's
Right.
Mm,
Like
it-
the
it would- we
emergency
should
is
be-
the thing, right? And then the emergency measure is that whatever the town can do to deal with that thing, that event.
Right, is the action required to deal with it. So really, we don't need, if we're going to define emergency here, we don't need this first. We don't need this in here. We just need to define what a measure is. An emergency measure is actions required to deal with an emergency. Right?
Right.
Emergency measures actually defined in section 2-7B. So we may not even need it in the definition because it is defined under 2-7B.
It just says it shall be introduced.
Yeah, I don't think it's
It
defined.
doesn't
It just
say
says-
what, it doesn't say
No?
what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we'll need both.
Yeah, I would, what you have highlighted now, Ed, I motion to delete what Ed has highlighted on the screen.
Well, what if we, what if we delete it, but then move it up? Is that sufficient to describe what an emergency is?
I would say either to leave it where it is or move it up and not remove it. That's me.
Right, so let me just cut this out of here right now.
So my motion is to make emergency measure defined as we see it on the screen right now.
I don't want to lose my cut
Yeah.
here, so let me just paste this here. Okay, so you want to make you made a motion? Tom,
So
did you
my
make a
motion
motion?
will be to define emergency measure as the actions required to deal with an emergency.
Okay, so the way we've defined this here, you want to revise the definition of emergency measure to this.
To deal with instead of it at the end, I would say with an emergency.
Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, because it's no,
Let me just hold for a second now. I notice it's 5 to 8. Josh, I think we need to have a motion to extend our meeting.
Yeah, we'll want to do that.
Okay, does someone want to make a motion to
well, I
extend the
have to
meeting?
retract my other motion, right? Because that one's open.
Okay, yeah,
So I
retract your
retract the
mo-
motion I just made. I now motion to extend the meeting for an additional 20 minutes.
Why 20,
I don't know, I picked a random time, 30 minutes.
30 minutes? Okay, somebody want to second it?
I
And
did.
okay, Janet.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Josh, we need a roll call on a motion to extend our meeting basically to 8:30.
Ed,
Yes,
Leonie,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes,
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
okay. Now, Tom,
now-
you want to,
now I motion to define emergency measure as the actions required to deal with an emergency.
So
okay,
would it just be the actions required to deal with an emergency and not add an emergency measure is? I mean, is that necessary?
I think that's just a preamble to, I mean, you could get rid of it. You could get rid of everything from and to is the. There you go. That's my motion now.
okay. Second on Tom's motion or not?
Darren wasn't second Tom's motion.
Okay, further discussion? Okay, Josh, we need a roll call on an updated definition for emergency measure.
Ed,
Yes,
Leonie,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
okay. All right, now we go back up here. And we can either use this definition that was down below and originally, or we can use, I think this was the original? What was the?
Yeah, that wasn't the original.
No, all the way to actions is the original. So a sudden,
Yeah.
immediate action. So that was the original.
Okay, and then we have and then we have the amended definition here
Correct.
that Cleone suggested. So this one here obviously is very general, covers anything, right, that could happen potentially. This one here, adds that it necessitates immediate action.
can you combine those two sentences somehow?
I think maybe I'm not seeing it. What's the difference? Like they say basically the same thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, one says a sudden, unexpected, one says unforeseen happening, occurrence. They're pretty much saying the same thing. It's just semantics, really.
My
Right.
preference would be to leave it as it originally was because it uses the word immediate action. And then the emergency measures definition also uses the word action.
Okay,
So it carries from one to the other.
so you want to take this one out.
That would be my opinion.
All
Yeah,
right,
I
well, let
agree
me,
with that.
does everyone agree to take this one out?
I think that can come out if we're adding the other stuff.
Okay. All right, so now we have the original definition here. The question is whether we just keep that or whether we add the additional verbiage that Cleone is suggesting.
Cleone, do you want to make a motion to add that?
Yeah, I, Cleone Mainville, motion to add the definition of emergency to include to save lives. I don't know, do you go through all that to read it?
I think you can just say the revised definition of emergency.
Okay. I, Cleone Mainville, motion to add the revised definition of emergency.
Is there a second?
I'm going to second it and then vote no. So I'll second it to move this along.
Okay, any further discussion? So I think there is a concern that by putting this verbiage in, there's a potential that we could be leaving something out that we haven't described. And Tom mentioned a financial emergency, but maybe there's something else we haven't thought of right now. So that would be a concern.
Right. Oh, here's another financial emergency as it comes up on my Facebook feed. Ransomware attack. That would be a financial emergency.
Cyberware attack or something, yeah.
So why wouldn't that fall under catastrophe in any part of the city of Bridgewater?
Well, how is that a catastrophe though? Like, what's the definition of catastrophe?
Something that would be debilitating to the government.
Yeah, I mean, if it shut the computer system.
And if it is, and if it isn't a catastrophe, why would it be an emergency? The ransomware.
Leonie, you had mentioned that this came up with you in the past. Are you able to describe what you're referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. I oversaw funds that went to local governments, and some of the funds is called community planning and development grants. And when they're looking to use those funds for blighted area, we had to define what that is. What's the emergency that would cause you to not need to get citizen participation and vet it through the usual process to use these funds and get approval. And so that was what on the federal level, what we determined, if these things are in danger, then you didn't have to get public comment that was like 14 days and so forth. So it really is to help to define universally what would be considered an emergency, because your idea of an emergency may be different from someone else's. So that's how we used the term emergency, so that they could override certain protocols that were in place for checks and balances when looking to use federal funds in this case.
I'm feeling a little differently about this right now, because I do feel now, after reading it again multiple times, that when I read to lessen or avert the threat of a catastrophe in any part of the city, that's pretty general. I mean, a catastrophe could be anything. Could be financial, could be network, could be computers, could be health, could be.
But so lessen or avert the threat of a catastrophe, not the results of a catastrophe?
Or to lessen or avert the threat. What else?
What
would
if
you
it, if it's already happened, it's no longer a threat, right? It's an incident.
Okay,
The threat or result, or?
so what are you suggesting, Tom?
I stand by my original opinion that I want it to just leave it as is.
Okay, you want to leave it as is. All right.
Because it still requires a 2/3 vote of the town council to enact an emergency measure. So it's not one person's definition of emergency or understanding. It requires at least 2/3 vote on that emergency measure per section 2.7.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously spending a lot of time on this and a good discussion, but, you know, so we have a motion. We have a motion seconded. We're discussing it. As chairman, I'm going to ask that we bring the motion to a vote at this point. So, Josh, we'll need a roll call on the updated definition for emergency.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
No,
No.
Tom, Janet,
Oh gosh, I know. Yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. All right, what do you have? What else do you have, Cleone?
Under multiple member body or organization, we're still in definition.
Right here?
As I read it, yes, as I read it, the definition seemed incomplete, and I was wondering if it should state any board, commission, or committee in the city that is made up of 2 or more members. I don't know if I was reading it too, you know, when it says multiple member board, it doesn't mention the number of people.
Well, I'm not sure it needs to mention the number of people. I mean, 2 is multiple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be a single, as long as it says multiple, then you know it's 2 or more.
But this is the definition of, so I'm proposing any board, commission, or committee in the city that is made up of 2 or more members.
Want to make that an official motion so we can vote on it?
Yes, I, Cleone Mainville, motion to add to the definition of multiple member body or organization up to 2 or more members.
Ice Thomas Golden second.
Any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we're voting on the updated definition to multiple member body or organization.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. You're muted. please.
Under, sure, sorry. Under ordinance, the definition includes the term municipal government, but we did not define that. So I'm proposing that that be included in definition.
Would it, if we didn't say municipal, If it just said government, would you still want to
That would be fine.
define government?
No,
No, it's municipal that is causing you to want to define it?
correct, for someone who isn't familiar.
Okay.
You want to just get rid of municipal or you want to define municipal?
Hold on. Actually, I would need clarification. Is this ordinance, does it have to be local government? Because then if it is supposed to be specific to the city of Bridgewater, then government might be too general. So I need clarification on that.
I mean, we can say here enacted by the city of Bridgewater.
I don't,
No?
can't you have a state ordinance?
No, that's state laws. I mean, we can look up the definition of an ordinance, and I think it essentially is a law. An authoritative decree or direction set forth by a governmental authority or specifically a municipal regulation. It's back to municipalities, so I think it's.
So then, so then city of Bridgewater should be fine then.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
I mean, in the context of the charter, yes, it would be
Yeah.
the city of Bridgewater.
That sounds good.
Right. I, Cleone Mainville, motion to replace municipal government with the city of Bridgewater.
I, Janet, second.
Okay, any discussion?
So I'm just looking at Governor Charlie Baker's statewide ordinance related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Just saying.
Is that how we're using it in the charter as well? Is that what you're saying, Tom?
Well, I'm just saying, like, you can have a non-Bridgewater, like a state ordinance, like from the statewide, not just from the town of Bridgewater. So would
Yeah,
you
but I
want to
don't
be
think, I
sure?
don't think the charter is talking about ordinances being issued by outside.
We do have places where we say in conformance with state statutes. So that's my only point.
We do. You're right, we do. But I mean, what we had there before,
I'm fine with it. Just leave it as City of Bridgewater. The attorney's going to look at this
Yeah.
anyways, and he's smarter than I am.
I don't know about that. I mean, geez.
He's smarter. I'm more arrogant, but he's
Don't
smarter.
sell yourself short, Tom. You're pretty smart guy. All right, I don't even recall. Do we have a motion yet on this or not? No?
Yes, I motioned.
Okay, so then we have a second?
I second.
All right, great. All right, any further discussion? Okay, Josh, we need a roll call to update the definition of ordinance, please.
Ed,
Yes.
Leone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. Josh, did you crawl into a little room or something? Your voice changed.
I did not. How's
Oh,
that?
that's better. That's better
Okay.
now. Yeah. Okay.
He was asleep. It's fine.
Under
under-
resolution,
Yeah.
the body, that either needs to be defined or replaced with a more descriptive term.
The enacting body.
Who is the body? Like, that we need to define what the body is. Thinking about,
The city council. I mean,
okay,
it's the city council that issues resolutions. Nobody else does that.
That's fair.
perfect. I, Cleone Mainville, motion to replace the body with the term the city council.
I, Janet, second.
Any further discussion? All right, Josh, we need a roll call to update the definition of resolution.
Ed,
Yes,
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes,
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
okay,
Special election.
okay.
I want to propose that this be reworded. I found it very confusing, and I would like to suggest that the definition be updated to state an election in response to an emergency that is outside of the election cycle to fill an unexpected vacancy.
So that's only one example of, of why you would have a special election. The council could vote for a charter change. They could have a special election for a charter change if they wanted to as well. So I'm not sure. I know it does say here, it just says as one held. I think that means as an example. As one held to fill a vacancy arising by the death of, that's the way I'm reading it. For example, here's one, one reason. So
I agree that a special election is not just to fill a vacancy. It, like you said, it could be a charter change or something that warrants the town's input.
yeah, it could be a recall too. I mean, it could be.
So this definition as is still incomplete. It's not a good definition, because then I was completely confused.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that having just that as an example throws people off.
What did you, I like there was part of your verbiage that I did like. Can you state it again? I'm going to type the whole thing and then.
Sure. An election in response to an emergency and is outside of the election cycle. We could just leave it at that.
Of the normal or regular?
I just put outside of the regular would be a good word, election cycle.
Sorry for my typing here. Okay. I like that. I don't think you need to have an example in there. Just say in response to an emergency, we've got emergency defined and that it's outside of the regular election cycle, period.
But by definition of emergency, that doesn't, there's not an emergency to a charter, not emergency to whatever else we had said. But a particular.
Well, maybe we get rid of the word emergency because maybe it isn't emergency implies to me, you've got to get it done right away. Special elections normally have to be scheduled. It's not like, obviously you're not going to have it once a year, but like say in 3 months, they decide they need to have one, but that's really not an emergency, is it? If you're going to have it in 3 months?
To a particular event, to circumstances.
Yeah, I like that, an event, a response to an unusual event or a
Unexpected.
yes, in response to an unexpected, I like that, event and is outside of the regular election cycle. Perfect.
need a commerce, anything after event.
I don't think so because it's followed by an and. An election in response to an unexpected event and is outside of the regular election cycle. If you had an or, you would probably put in a comma, but with the and, I don't think you need it. All right, that's good. Anyone want to make a motion to revise special election to this year?
Are you going to be removing the stuff above it?
Yeah, I'll remove it as long as we vote for this one. I don't want to delete it and have to go back and try and remember what I had there.
I, Thomas Golden, vote to approve the new definition for special election.
Actually, Bill second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, Tom, we have an updated version of special election definition. Need a roll call, please?
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Thank you. Anything else, Cleone?
Under voters, oh, never mind. I was going to suggest registered voters, but I see that it's here now, so I don't know what I was thinking. Should be changed to say registered. Oh, I know what it is. This definition of voters, I was wondering if it should say registered voters here, but then I don't know, something is wrong here. Voters, registered voters of the city.
Yeah, what seems wrong to me is you're using the word voter, but you're defining it here, but you're using it in the definition.
I think it should be, I think it should say registered voters, and then the definition should say what constitutes someone as being a registered voter. That's what it is. So we're defining registered voters, and then we're actually putting the definition. So that's what's missing. And this is someone who is registered with the clerk or the registrar. I don't know.
if I may, in the charter, do we reference voters as registered voters or voters? And is that
Voters.
definition there? Because if
I think we use both. We're using both.
I could.
I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think what we're doing here is we're saying that when we talk about voters, we really mean registered voters. So I think that's why we defined it the way we did here. So,
But then we need to define what does the term registered then.
yeah, we could say voters in the city of Bridgewater who are
Isn't,
what, Tom?
they ignore me, just go ahead.
Oh, you said, are you frustrated?
No,
We're on the last one here, Tom.
are we
Come
though? We have 493 votes to read to.
We're gonna, look how much we got done tonight. Come on. We had.
No,
we
no,
made-
I'm just fine.
They
We
need
made great.
done, Tom, though.
My question to Cleone was, did you do the whole charter or just the definitions?
I didn't do the whole charter, but I went past the definitions. So just to let you know, the term registered voters is used 13 times in the charter.
Okay.
so do we want to say legally registered voters?
Are there illegally registered voters?
If you ask the right side, perhaps.
So
Good point.
registered voters are voters in the city of Bridgewater who are registered,
Eligible to participate in elections.
who are registered with the city clerk and eligible to vote in city, not just city elections, right? But
I mean, it's city elections, right? We don't care if they're registered to vote in federal or state elections. I mean, they are by chance, right? But we have no authority or jurisdiction over those two things.
I agree with Tom.
okay. That better?
Yes.
All right.
So people can
Yes,
be
thank you.
vote in a city, but doesn't not mean registered to vote in the state election? No, you're just saying that it's.
I think people generally vote in both. I think there are certain people that may try to take up the advantage of not being registered for state or federal, so they do not have to do jury duty.
Oh, I didn't know you could vote register only one way.
I'm not sure it's true in Bridgewater, but I'm pretty sure you can in county seat states. So now I have to look.
Okay. Did we vote on this already or not?
We
No.
did not.
oh, okay.
I, Cleone Mainville, motion to update the definition of voters to registered voters and adopt the revised definition.
And you just have to move it up in the alphabet.
We want to second it?
Hi, Janet, second.
Oh, come on. Here we go. Okay, any further discussion? Somehow I gotta go back. I lost my table here. Okay, Josh, we need a roll call vote to approve the revised definition of voters to registered voters in the definition as well.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion was approved.
Okay. All right, we have a few minutes before it's going to be 8:30. How much more do you have, Cleone?
I have more, but we can just
Yeah.
end at this last one.
Did you lose resolution?
on-
Did you lose something here? Resolution?
Oh, maybe did I copy it over? Oh, I tried to insert it. Look like it,
There it is.
I'll take care of this afterwards. I'll move it. I don't want to
Okay.
get tied up here. I'll.
Yeah,
All
because
right,
my next suggestion is to add a definition under section 1-3, division of powers. We have here all legislative powers, but we don't define that. And not everybody's going to know what that means. So I'm proposing adding legislative powers in the definition. So I, Cleone Mainville, motion to add legislative powers in the definition.
You have a definition for it?
No, wait, maybe, hold on. Because I try to do my homework. Yes, okay. Legislative power, the authority under the Bridgewater Home Rule Charter to make laws and to alter or repeal them.
They're not laws though, right? It's ordinances.
I don't know.
say it again, the authority under the Bridgewater Home Rule Charter.
To make laws and to alter or repeal them. Maybe the lawyer could help us with that.
Yeah, because I don't think we have the authority to make a law. I'm like 98% sure.
Wait a minute, ordinance is a law.
Yeah, because I'm looking at that too. It says a law,
Bylaws.
statute, or regulation enacted by the city of Bridgewater.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what a bylaw is essentially an ordinance. So they are laws, they're local laws. So to make laws or to alter, or would you say?
Or repeal them. Repeal them.
Okay, Josh, do we need to extend the meeting another 15 minutes?
No, we're running out of steam. I think that I'll hold the rest for the next meeting.
Oh, we didn't vote on this.
I mean, we could get that done in 4 minutes now.
Okay, all right.
I, Cleone Mainville, motion to add legislative powers under the definition.
I, Darren Boston, second the motion.
Okay, I can tell you now, I'm not comfortable voting on the wording right now. So I will be voting no on this. I'm not sure I like the definition. I think it can be tweaked a little bit better. I don't want to have to come back, but. And
Article 2 is specifically legislative branch, so if that's defined in there. But I just want to remind us that Article 2, it talks about what the legislative branch is. Not necessarily powers, but branch.
right. Okay. All right, so Josh, we need to make a roll call, have a roll call on the definition of a new definition, legislative powers.
Ed,
No,
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes,
Tom,
No,
Janet,
No,
okay, the vote failed.
okay. So let's just leave this for next time. I'll leave it in yellow. And I'll, if you guys want to work on this as well, I'll work on it. But I think, I don't have an issue with putting the definition in there. I just wasn't happy with the definition. So we can tweak that and it'll be voted on next week. All right, so that's it, Cleone, for tonight. You have a couple of more. Can you send those to us?
Absolutely.
So that we can look at them and I can actually get them in the charter so that next time we can just quickly see them like we did before and vote on them. So the other thing is we're going to have to sort of close the door on any additional changes after next week. I mean, we have to vote. We have to do our second round of voting. So although these are all good changes, you know, we got to say that as of this certain time frame, we're not going to accept any more changes. Otherwise, we're not going to finish on time.
unless we see something that's really out of whack.
Right. So other than the additional changes that Cleone has coming, if anybody finds anything major, we'll talk about it, but we can't accept any more small changes. You know, I'll devote maybe, you know, another 20 minutes of our next meeting to any new changes, but then we're going to have to get into revoting.
Ed, can I ask a question on your procedure for revoting? Are you just gonna pull up the minutes from every meeting we've had?
No,
And just,
I mean, I can do that. I was just going to go through the charter and just everything that's in green. The general ones, we can just vote once.
so
Right.
my only comment on that is some of these green things have changed more than once and we voted to redo all the votes. So I'm just throwing that out there.
I'd be willing to entertain any suggestions for how to best conduct our second round of voting.
That might be a Scott question since he's done it before, but I'm
Okay,
not sure. I think because we voted to re-vote on everything, we have to do it verbatim again.
okay. All right, then why don't you guys think about it? I mean, I can communicate individually with you over the next week. Our next meeting is next, we haven't even finished the agenda yet. Our is next Wednesday, the 16th. So we have no new business, no public comment tonight. Nobody's on. Action items for the next meeting really is just to finalize any additional changes.
Darren, are you not here next Wednesday?
I'm not here the 23rd.
Okay.
You're not here, right, Tom?
I will not, I very unlikely will be here unless I have, very unlikely.
And I'm not here
Oh, boy.
for sure.
Okay, so if it's me and Janet and Darren, we need one other person definitely here, and that's really Steve or Scott.
I mean, Ed, I can try, but so I teach next week and they're long days and they get out at 6.
And
So
that's every day. So if we change the day,
yeah, it's Monday to Friday next week.
okay, all right. Would it make sense to start at 7?
I could probably make that work. I teach 6 to 6 Monday to Friday. So
Okay, could we change next week's meeting and have it from 7 to 9?
I have no problem with that.
I may have supper, right?
I mean, I'd be fine. I could make 7 to 9 next week work.
Okay. Well, why don't we do that then? Josh, is that okay with you?
That works for me.
Okay, great. All right, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I, Thomas Golden, motion to adjourn the meeting.
Darren Boston, second motion.
Okay. Josh, we need a roll call to adjourn.
Ed,
Yes.
Cleone,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes,
Thank you. The motion was approved. The meeting is adjourned.
Leone, can you call me on my cell phone? You have it, right? Right, thanks.
Good night.
Good night.